Good evening, everybody. We are at Old Trafford for a midweek edition of the Gary Neville podcast. You can't get enough of it. Here's a bonus go off the back of a really good round of midweek games, the last of which was here, Gary. Manchester United have drawn with West Ham. You, with your own eyes, have seen a little bit of action towards the bottom of the league. You saw Leeds put on a great display last night. You saw West Ham come away with a point here. What's your sort of interpretation of what you see just either side of the relegation line?
Yeah, I had Leeds, Burnley and Wolves to go down, and I'd looking pretty comfortable with that. I'm not going to change my mind, but I have to say, watching Leeds last night, that they showed me something different, a lot more physical. I think that the spine of the team, the three centre-backs, I think Ampadu sat in front of them, and then the two centre-forwards, Calvert-Lewin and Mecha, and then obviously the lads that came on. I thought that they could pick up points. They could win games. They could cause teams some real disruption and sort of physically sort of hurt them. I thought the wing-backs were outstanding. Real energy. The way in which they went about the business, and we've seen tonight, I think it's hard to find good wing backs, players who play that sort of position naturally. So yeah, I think last night was a good night for Leeds. Really good night. They were dominant. They really did physically outmuscle Chelsea. I thought that obviously they were nearly there on Saturday, weren't they, against Manchester City? And you think about that, then maybe that's given them a little bit of confidence that let's just go for Chelsea. And they went for them in that first 10 minutes. I always think when you go to Ellen Road, you shouldn't expect anything else than a right good battering in that first 15, 20 minutes. If you get through it, you might be okay, but quite often, you know, you go to Ellen Road, you expect it to be hostile, you expect the crowd to be on top of you, balls played forward, balls into the box, a relentless sort of aggression and sort of tackling, and that's what I saw last night from Leeds United. It's definitely a blueprint that's not just a blueprint for last night, it should be a blueprint for the club full stop, and how they should perform week in, week out. And I thought they had the players on the pitch to do so. I'd watched them earlier on in the season when they had, I think, Nonto and James in wide areas and Peru, I think, up front. I thought they're just a little bit lightweight. They're talented players, those lads, don't get me wrong. They've got a lot about them. I like Nonto particularly. James is a threat on the counter-attack. But you're getting into winter, you're in the Premier League. This league's become more and more physical over this last 2 or 3 years. It's gone back 15, 20 years in respect of the size of the players, the set pieces, the balls into the box, the long balls forward, the throw-ins. Everything's now demanding aerial duels to be won, and physicality and aggression. And I think that last night, Chelsea, we'll come on to obviously what them shortly, but they played a team of men, and Chelsea will look like little boys out there against them. So I think that is something that they've got to build off. It's the first time that the coach has gone with a different system. Leeds fans have been asking for a plan B. They got plan B. Plan B sometimes doesn't come off. That does look like it's going to work off the first outing. So yeah, really good from Leeds. I thought Leeds last night were a lot more intense and better than West Ham tonight, but that's purely as well because West Ham are away from home tonight. They're playing a little bit more positional in the sense of sort of playing more counter-attack, playing a little bit behind the ball. Manchester United at home, but they hung in there. I don't think Manchester United were very good. Didn't cause them a lot of problems, but I think that Nuno will be really happy. He'll be particularly happy that he makes a substitution, and Bowen's on corners. Bowen goes into the middle, basically as one of the players attacking it. Irving comes out, his substitute to take it, and there's an immediate impact. Obviously the ball comes back out to Magassa and they score. But yeah, look, there's a long way to go. Leeds or West Ham, based on what I've seen there. I think that Leeds 11 last night that started that game, if it can stay fit, there's a couple of big buts there for Leeds. If it can stay fit with those two up top, I think they could be okay. But you know, there's a long way to go. I think it's slightly just edged for what I saw from West Ham. Yeah,
just jumping about a bit here because it feels pertinent. Obviously, Leeds-Chelsea is one of the great historic fixtures, and so is Leeds-Liverpool. And I wonder whether that is a great game for Leeds to maintain their momentum, given the state of Liverpool at the moment.
Yeah, someone's having a laugh at me at Sky, aren't they? You get your programme through, you get Leeds-Chelsea on the Wednesday night, and then you get Leeds-Liverpool. You're thinking, is that right? I've got to go to Leeds-Chelsea and Leeds-Liverpool.
Where you're universally popular.
I'll just get my hood up. and my helmet on.
There's no hiding place in that game.
I didn't know I didn't know what to expect last night in the game. I maybe thought it might be a little bit sort of edgy, a little bit scruffy, but it wasn't. It was a really good game to watch. I enjoyed it. And look, Saturday is going to be interesting. Can Leeds go again? They'll be confident. They'll be really sort of have good belief, but physically, can they go again at that sort of frantic pace that they set at times in that game last night? And obviously Liverpool. What's happening to Liverpool is a mystery from where we saw last season. So, yeah, you're absolutely right. Some sort of great games, upon us. And, yeah, I enjoyed last night's game as a spectacle. I thought it was really surprising watching Leeds play how they did and, hurt Chelsea as much as they did. And it'll give them, like I say, a feeling that, we can get out. We can stay in this league. Sorry, not get out of this league. We can stay in this league and we can push up the table.
Yeah. So what about Chelsea? Because all of us just thinking maybe they're the closest to Arsenal, and they drew with Arsenal at the weekend and so on. They were right in the mix, and then that happens. Is that something you were waiting to happen?
Yeah, I've never bought into this Chelsea going to challenge for the title. I mean, getting close and maybe getting up to third or second, maybe, because there's a lot of inconsistency around near the top of the league. There's only Arsenal performing at a level that you would say is anything like at the moment. I think you go to Leeds United, and look, Leeds haven't been great recently, but there has to be a little bit of understanding of what you may face. I didn't think there was any of that from Chelsea. I think the coach made changes. He played a team of a very young team. They've got young players anyway, but it was Chalobah at right back was awkward in terms of on the ball first half. They had a mountain of passes, a million passes in the back three that was driving me crazy. And you start off passing slowly, and we'll come on to United in a little bit. Don't start a game bloody slowly. You're playing for a top goal. Get the game moving, get the ball moving quickly, get your tempo in your passing, get your touch right. And the drift is walking on the ball. There's so many passes back the way. And when you start like that and a team are on top of you and Leeds are playing forward, you're playing right into their hands. What do Leeds United want? They want the back three or back two of Chelsea with the right back Chalobah, tucking in, playing as a three in possession. They want them to play across the back slowly. That's the easiest thing in the world for the opposition team. So don't do that. Feed the ball quickly into positions further forward where you've got your more talented players. But I have to say, Chelsea just to me last night didn't approach the game correctly. They didn't have the actual beef out on the pitch to be able to handle Leeds' muscle. Simple as that. They were out-muscled, out-fought, everything in the outrun. And you thought that when Chelsea got back into the game, they could sort of come, and you thought, well, this could be interesting. But they got caught by a pass back from it was Gusto to Chalobah, was it, I think, and then it goes back to the goalkeeper, and it's a mess. And let's stop talking about Chelsea being a title-winning team. Let's stop talking about it. It's not there. They haven't got the goalkeeper for it. They haven't got the centre-backs for it, and they haven't got the centre-forwards for it. But they'll finish in the top four. I think they've got a lot of very good players. They've spent a fortune on that squad. They've got some real talent in there, but they're miles away from being a title-winning team. And I know what a Chelsea title-winning team looks like, and the Chelsea fans know what a title-winning team looks like. They've won plenty of them. They've seen the physicality and the durability that you need to go and win a league. It's not all about playing football. You have that physical aspect to league, particularly when I think you get into these months of December, January, February, where there are big demands upon players. People might say, it gets cold. It gets colder. Games come thick and fast. You look at your Christmas calendar, the players are playing these games. I've got about 12 games that I've got over Christmas, and the lads are obviously having to go every 3 or 4 days, and you've got to really play a more robust game at this period of the year. Yeah, the pitches are immaculate and they're fantastic, but you've still got to demand that sort of physicality from your team. And I just think Chelsea, they're way off it in terms of certain areas of the pitch. Their spine's not good enough. They've got some excellent players. They've got some real talent. There's a lot to work with, but they're nowhere near a title-winning team. And I know they keep teasing us and tickling us every few weeks when they win a couple of games. It's, Chelsea up there nearly 7 points from Arsenal. What if they win this game? And we keep saying it, and they're nowhere near.
Well, a similar sort of narrative, a couple of places further down the league for Manchester United, who tease and tempt, and who twice in the last fortnight have had a chance to go into the top 5 and haven't. And sort of the prevailing mood here, I sense, is one of anticlimax tonight.
Yeah, if you saw those, obviously when we threw back to the studio and the camera stays in the stadium and they're picking up the faces of fans that are still sat in the actual sort of seats, real dejection. real dejection. I feel so disappointed. So disappointed. You know, against Everton, I think everyone leaves that and they might think, well, okay, you know, we've been on a decent run. You can have a one-off game and that can happen. But speaking to Ruben Amorim before the game tonight, and I said about this opportunity to go up the league and jump up the league and get into 5th and level on 4th, and thinking about what could this season start to look like. And they've missed 2 glaring opportunities. I mean, they could be 2nd or 3rd, having won these 2 games. But there's far too many ifs and buts and maybe and could-haves and would-haves with this team. And you know, Ruben Amorim absolutely will be. He'll be angry, frustrated, and gutted because, and we saw obviously the executives saw, you know, Jason Wilcox, sporting director, and Omar Barada. They'll be absolutely gutted because I've said this before. You see a team that do it once, and that can happen, but when you see it happen twice, it starts to become a pattern of what you are. And this was a massive opportunity. If you saw the games that are lined up, Everton, Crystal Palace, they won the most difficult game at Crystal Palace. You know, West Ham at home, Wolves on Monday. And you're thinking, 10 points. That could put Manchester United into a serious position in the league. You know, they could be up there in 3rd. And really then sort of starting to think about the programme they've got when everybody kicks into European football and the cup competitions kicking again into sort of February, March. But unfortunately, they're not taking their chances to get up there and be up there. And I don't get it. I don't get the lack of urgency and the lack of intensity. I don't get the slow play. I don't get the lack of sort of risk in the game. I don't get it. You know, Ruben Amorim can't be telling them to go out there. In fact, I know he's not, because in his interview with me pre-match that me and Peen did, he said, I want more intensity from the very beginning. Now, I suspect, unless he's having us over, he's not going back into the change room saying, guys, play slowly tonight. He's going in there and saying, lads, let's get the ball moving around quickly. Let's run forward. Let's play with real threat and vigour. And it doesn't transpire out on the pitch. So, I don't know.
Why does that happen?
Peter, I've got no understanding. We lost games here. And we drew games here, and we drew big games here, and we drew sort of what would be lesser games here. But I don't think we drew games in that way. I don't think we lost games in that way. We would, I think we'd throw the kitchen sink at it. I think you'd see both full-backs flying forward, centre-backs in the box, goalkeeper... Jeez, what's I've kicked over them? A bottle of water. That's the best tackle I've seen all night.
It is water, isn't it?
Yeah,
okay.
It is water. It could be vodka as well, to be fair. But I think you'd see goalkeepers coming up and going for corner kicks. You'd see mayhem. You'd see things happening. You'd see a real rush and a real massive, I'm not saying embarrassment, but a real massive urge to not lose this game, to not draw this game. And I don't see that. Why? You may as well lose as going, you know, I just don't see it. I don't see the actual appetite to go and throw your whole life at the game and everything you've got and throw it forward and take risks. And Bruno does look, I have to say, a little bit like he does that. I think Bruno at the end there, you see him, he's like the kid in the sort of in the playground he's trying to get everywhere and he's trying to take this and he's trying to shoot from there. I actually see that little bit of panic in him that we can't draw this game. I don't see it in enough of the others. I don't. I see this still being quite a sort of like a bit of a, let's play there and pass there and we'll let the game drift and we'll sort of walk towards a throw-in and we'll take things a little bit easy. That can't be what it is. And I don't know what to say other than they are what they are, and they're showing us to what they are. The 7th or 8th and 9th, they just don't want to jump up. And look, maybe it'll happen in the next couple of weeks, because what I would say, this league at this moment in time isn't very good in terms of quality, and the consistency is really, really dire. It's poor. Everyone's losing, everyone's dropping points. Everyone, apart from Arsenal, Sunderland and a couple of others, are not playing anywhere near the standards that they can achieve. And Ruben Amorim's on here. You can see it in his eyes. The frown, can't you? You can see where he's at. He'll be absolutely livid but gutted that his team can't deliver at the point where he needs them to. I've got no doubts. This is not complacency from Man. He'll be looking at that table a week last Monday before he gets to that Everton game and thinking, right, this is it. Come on, this is it. We're off the back of an international break. The Christmas charge. We can go into 4th and 5th. Teams are dropping points around us. They lose. He then gets lifted a little bit by what happened at Crystal Palace at Sellers Park, which was a fantastic victory. Wasn't great in the first half, but to come back and win there, any type of victory there is excellent in any time. And then tonight he's thinking, right, it's set up. Let's give our fans a real boost. Thursday evening, they can get back into town, they can have a drink. Maybe a few of them have come over from different parts of the world and they can have tomorrow off and they'll enjoy a night in Manchester. And then they get that and they're walking across the forecourt not happy. And that's a real disappointment. But look, there's no point in keeping talking about it. They're not good enough. And they're not as good as I think Ruben Amorim would want them to be. And they're not as good as I'm sure that the people in the director's box would want them to be. And certainly not as good as I'd like them to be. Because I'm not seeing anybody out there that I don't think wants to be. I'm not seeing any sort of what would be the manager's lost the dressing room. There's none of that type of stuff. But why aren't we seeing this real fierce approach and attitude towards the game? I don't know.
No. We shouldn't finish. I can feel Villa fans' eyes on the back of my neck.
Where did they come from?
Well, where did they? I don't know. My imagination.
No, Villa, I meant.
Villa, yeah. Well, they came from behind at Brighton.
I know.
In a very exciting game, and they're third in the Premier League.
Absolutely.
And so they deserve proper coverage and interest.
Fantastic manager. Where they were a few weeks ago, you were thinking, this looks a little bit ominous, a little bit dangerous, but a little bit of consistency, a few wins, and you do fly up that league quite quickly because everybody's dropping points. And Unai Emery has been around the block and he's a fantastic manager. And where have they come from? Because they were right down there, weren't they, a good few weeks in. And now they've started to hit a little bit of form, but they've got a good, like I say, a really good manager, a good squad, and they're starting to perform. And they've got some talented players. And any form of performance, or like I'm going to use the word consistency again, is going to see you travel quite quickly up that table, and they deserve to be where they are going to be. Why not? Everyone else is dropping points. Just go and do what you need to do. I mean, go and take the opportunity that is there in front of you to go and, shot the world. Go and finish second. Anything could happen. So yeah, at the moment, great for Villa. I really like Villa as a football club, full stop, and I like Unai Emery. I think he's a fantastic and great coach, and he's one of the best in the league. So, yeah, well done to Villa. Well done.
Yeah, I think we're nearly done. I just wondered if you want to have a quick word on Fulham 4, Manchester City 5.
Yeah, I watched a bit of that game. I was flipping back and forward. City looked like they were sending a message, and then in some ways similar to the Leeds game, almost giving so many chances and sort of encouragement. So unlike Pep Guardiola's teams who pride themselves on great football but also brilliant defence. Few goals against, but you can get at City, you can score goals, but they are still a threat going forward. Foden looks like he's getting dangerous again. You've obviously got Haaland up front who's sort of in unbelievable form. So, yeah, Manchester City are just a threat through the fact that they've got players who've been around the block. They're the closest to Arsenal, and they've got some exceptional players, and they've got a world-class striker and manager.
Okie dokie, I think that's it.
Yes,
for midweek, isn't it?
I will see you on Saturday.
Absolutely. Ellen Road,
Okay,
be noisy.
you.
Thanks, guys.
Mikel Arteta has made it clear that Arsenal will need to unleash their complete player against Bayern Munich. The Gunners host the German champions at the Emirates Stadium on Wednesday, and one man in particular could be decisive. Ebereki Eze, described as a very complete player by teammate Mikel Merino, is emerging as one of Arsenal's most dangerous weapons ahead of their Champions League clash with Bayern. The 27-year-old announced himself in North London with a stunning hat-trick in his first derby since arriving in a £67.5 million move from Crystal Palace. His 3 brilliant goals dismantled Tottenham, and truthfully, he could have scored even more. Merino believes every one of Arsenal's 8 summer signings has lifted the squad's level, helping the team build a 6-point lead at the top of the Premier League. But Wednesday's matchup is different. Bayern Munich, the reigning Bundesliga champions, represent the toughest test yet for Arteta's side. Speaking after the win over Spurs, Merino praised Eze's qualities and hinted at the impact he could have in such a high-stakes European battle. "We've brought in a lot of players who can make a difference. But you can see that other teams have spent big as well," the Spain international said. Individual brilliance can win matches, sure, but in the end, it's the team that matters. If you have great players who don't connect, that's a problem. The good thing about this group is that everyone thinks about the team first. When asked about Ease specifically, Marino didn't hesitate. I think he's incredibly complete. He can dribble, he can pass, and his technical quality is outstanding. In Spain, we always talk about players who can connect with others. He has that naturally. He grew up with that instinct to link play, move the ball, and build relationships on the pitch. He also has the mindset to get involved, demand the ball, and influence the game. At the same time, he's strong, he can take players on, and he can finish. He's a truly complete signing. Marino also touched on how the modern game often reduces players to simple numbers. These days everyone judges players by goals and assists, that's just how it is. But as footballers, we see the deeper qualities he brings, the technique, the movement, the intelligence. Even in training, you can tell immediately how special he is. Yes, he's scoring goals, but he's much more than that. He's an exceptional player, and we're incredibly lucky to have him. He can play in several positions and adapt to different systems. He's been a huge addition for Arsenal. Beyond the technical qualities, Marino believes Ease's attitude, and the healthy competition within the squad, will be crucial in Arsenal's title push. You can hear the calm in Eberechi's voice and see it in the way he carries himself. He's confident, grounded, and every morning we sit together in the sauna at the training ground and talk about everything, he added with a smile. He's a great guy, already fully integrated, and we need players like him. Competition is fierce. There's so much quality in this squad. That's exactly what the manager wanted, as many top players as possible, all ready to play. It makes his decisions tough, choosing who starts and who doesn't, but it also pushes every one of us to give our best in every session. And that's why we're improving as a team. As Arsenal prepare for Bayern's arrival, Arteta is facing one of the most delicate balancing acts of the season. The squad is healthy, competition is fierce, and expectations have never been higher. But behind the scenes, there is a growing sense that Ease's versatility and calm presence may be essential against a Bayern side known for controlling the tempo in big European nights. Arteta himself has hinted at Ease's importance without naming him directly. After the Tottenham victory, the manager spoke about the need for players who can break pressure, dictate rhythm, and stay composed when the game becomes chaotic. Those inside the club believe those comments were aimed at Ease as much as anyone. The coaching staff has been particularly impressed by how quickly he has adapted to Arsenal's positional play structure, a system that demands far more tactical discipline than what he was used to at Crystal Palace. Analysts at the club point to his growing influence not only in the final third, but also in build-up phases, where his ability to glide past pressure could help Arsenal bypass Bayern's aggressive midfield line. There is also an awareness that Bayern's fullbacks tend to push high, leaving spaces between the lines. Ease's skill set, sharp turns, deceptive acceleration, and precise final balls, could be exactly what Arteta needs to exploit those gaps. Outside the club, pundits have already started circling Wednesday's match as a defining moment for the £67.5 million signing. Some believe that if Ease can impose himself on a Champions League quarter-final against Bayern Munich, it will confirm his arrival among Europe's elite creative players. Former players have echoed that sentiment. Several ex-Arsenal figures, speaking on television over the weekend, highlighted the need for someone who can change the temperature of the match with a moment of calm or an unexpected burst of creativity. Ease, they argued, is one of the few in the squad capable of both. Meanwhile, Bayern Munich come into the match with their own confidence. Their midfield trio has been one of the most dominant in Europe this season, and they have shown a repeated ability to suffocate opponents early. That dynamic is precisely why Arteta may lean on Ease's composure. When the game tightens, Arsenal will need a player capable of slowing it down, protecting the ball, and finding solutions in tight spaces. Within Arsenal's dressing room, Marino's praise reflects a broader consensus. Senior players have reportedly been struck by Ease's humility and work ethic, qualities that have helped him integrate seamlessly into a squad that already had strong internal chemistry. Staff members describe him as someone who never forces the game, and lets the match come to him, characteristics that could prove invaluable in a high-tension Champions League tie. As kickoff approaches, the narrative surrounding the match has shifted. What began as a test of Arsenal's resilience has quietly become a spotlight on whether Ease can elevate them in Europe the same way he has in the Premier League. For Arteta, the equation is simple. If Arsenal are to overcome Bayern, they will need more than intensity. They will need control. They will need creativity. And increasingly, they will need the completeness Ease brings to every phase of the pitch. Whether he starts in a wide role as a floating midfielder, or even as an interior playmaker, the expectation is the same. Ease will have to find the spaces others cannot, and influence the game in ways that statistics alone will not capture. The stakes are high, the opponent is formidable, and the spotlight is intense. But within the walls of London Coney, the belief is growing that this is exactly the kind of stage Eberechi Ease was signed for. Martin Odegaard is nearing a return to action after suffering a medial collateral ligament injury in Arsenal's 2-0 win over West Ham earlier in October. Yet, 3.5 years after Mikel Arteta named him captain, the Norwegian finds himself in an unfamiliar position. His place in the starting lineup is no longer guaranteed. For the first time since joining the club permanently from Real Madrid in August 2021, there is real debate over whether he remains an automatic choice for Arteta's 11. Odegaard, now 26, has been central to Arsenal's resurgence under Arteta, the conductor who shaped the team's rhythm through some of their most fluid football. But this season, the Gunners have been forced to navigate long stretches without their captain, first due to a shoulder issue that kept him out of 4 matches in September, and then because of a knee collision with West Ham's Crescencio Somerville that sidelined him again. And during his absence, something significant happened. Eberechi Ease stepped into the spotlight. Ease's sensational hat-trick in the North London Derby has complicated the picture. Now thriving in a central role, the England international has given Arsenal a different kind of presence around the edge of the box. A blend of unpredictability, directness, and two-footed confidence that opponents struggle to contain. He may not control games with the same metronomic precision as Odegaard, but he offers a spark, a willingness to take risks at moments when Arsenal need a jolt of creativity. After such a standout performance against Tottenham, it feels almost impossible to imagine Arteta leaving Ease out. The manager has always had a soft spot for players riding a wave of confidence, and Ease is currently surfing at full height. There was a similar situation back in September, when Mikel Merino was handed a start against Manchester City after scoring 4 times in 2 games for Spain, including a hat-trick against Turkey. Arteta doesn't hesitate to reward form. Ease has carried that form onto the international stage as well, recently scoring a stunning goal for England in a 2-0 win over Serbia in the World Cup qualifiers at Wembley. Though he can play on the left, it has always been clear that Arteta brought him to the Emirates to operate in midfield. And with Declan Rice and Martin Zubamendi near untouchable in the double pivot, the odds of Ease and Odegaard consistently starting together seem slim. That leaves Odegaard in an unfamiliar position. He needs minutes to rebuild sharpness, yet Arsenal's medical team won't rush him. The plan is likely to ease him back through short substitute appearances before restoring him to larger roles. But even once fully fit, Odegaard faces genuine competition, because Ease has shifted the landscape. His arrival has raised the team's ceiling, and his performances have earned him the right to keep his place. Before the dismantling of Tottenham, Ease had scored only twice for Arsenal, one against Port Vale in the Carabao Cup and another versus his former club Crystal Palace, a clever finish that sealed victory. Now with 5 goals across all competitions, he sits just 1 behind Odegaard's total from last season, when the captain made 45 appearances. Odegaard's 2023-24 numbers were outstanding: 11 goals, 12 assists, influence written across every competition. That is the standard he must match again if he wants to reclaim his spot, because Ease is hungry, confident, and eager to impress ahead of next summer's World Cup. Arteta will insist that Arsenal need both players at their best if they are to meet their ambitions in the months ahead. And with Kai Havertz also working his way back to full fitness, potentially slotting into midfield behind marquee striker Victor Gyökeres, the battle for places has never been fiercer at the Emirates. For Odegaard, the message is clear: he must rise to the challenge. His leadership and quality remain unquestioned, but he can no longer rely on reputation alone. If he embraces the competition and fights his way back into the side, his return could push Arsenal to even greater heights. And if the team has already reached this level without several key figures, the potential for what comes next may be even greater. Inside the club, staff members are quietly acknowledging that Arsenal are entering a new phase, one where no player, not even the captain, is immune to tactical evolution. Arteta has spent the past 2 seasons building a squad capable of sustaining pressure across multiple competitions, and the emergence of Ease is a sign that the manager's long-term planning is beginning to bear fruit. Depth is no longer a luxury, it is a necessity. But with depth comes difficult decisions. Arteta has always valued balance in midfield, and the contrasting profiles of Odegaard and Ease force him to reconsider what type of midfield best suits the team's ambitions in Europe and the Premier League. The technical control and spatial awareness that Odegaard brings have defined Arsenal's identity under Arteta. Conversely, Ease's dynamism, physical presence, and unpredictable touches give Arsenal a new dimension, especially against teams that sit deep or defend aggressively in central areas. This internal shift has also caught the attention of analysts and former players. Several pundits have begun to question whether the captaincy should guarantee a place in the lineup, especially at a club with ambitions of challenging for the Champions League. Others argue that Odegaard's leadership is too valuable to sideline, pointing to the standards he sets in training and his influence over younger players. Those debates are already spilling into the media, and they will only intensify as the season progresses. There is also the tactical question of whether Arteta might eventually experiment with a system that accommodates both Ease and Odegaard, something he briefly attempted earlier in the season during the win over West Ham. But with Rice and Zubimendi forming an almost impenetrable midfield pairing, any reshuffle risks destabilizing the defensive structure that has made Arsenal one of the most resilient teams in the league. The manager has hinted that he is open to adjustments, but only if they enhance the team's overall cohesion. For Odegaard himself, the challenge is as much psychological as it is physical. He has worked hard to cultivate an image of calm authority, a leader who raises the level of those around him through clarity and consistency. Now he must show that he can adapt, compete, and respond to adversity. His teammates still speak of him with admiration, describing him as one of the most studious and detail-oriented players at London Coney. They believe that once he regains full rhythm, he will naturally reassert his influence. Yet even they acknowledge that the landscape has shifted. One senior player privately remarked that, "The team is different now. Ease has changed what we can do in the final third." That sentiment reflects not a lack of faith in Odegaard, but an understanding that Arsenal have evolved while he has been sidelined. For Arteta, the ideal scenario is straightforward: a fully fit Odegaard competing with a fully confident Ease, creating a level of internal competition that lifts the entire squad. The manager often speaks about the need for healthy tension among his players, pressure that keeps standards high without fracturing unity. The arrival of Victor Gyökeres, combined with the recovery of Havertz, only amplifies that dynamic. Arsenal's season will almost certainly hinge on these midfield decisions. With Champions League knockout matches approaching and the Premier League title race tightening, Arteta must decide not only who starts, but what kind of identity he wants his team to carry into the defining months of the campaign. The next few weeks will reveal whether Odegaard's return sparks a resurgence or a battle for relevance. If he manages to reclaim his place, it could serve as a reminder of why Arteta trusted him with the armband in the first place. If he struggles, it will underline how rapidly Arsenal are progressing, and how little room there is for sentiment at the highest level. Either way, the captain's response will shape not just his future, but the trajectory of a team that believes it is on the brink of something significant.